Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the saastrana application security podcast. Today, we have with us Sangmesh, founder of Marmin.ai. Marmin provides e-invoicing and document exchange SaaS platforms catering to businesses in Saudi Arabia. Sangmesh in today's podcast is going to share with us his journey of how we built Marmin and pivoted to becoming a SaaS company solving this specific use case. As part of this journey, he is going to share with us how cybersecurity initiatives and application security become an integral part for him to be able to acquire his customers. There are specific compliances, regulations, and bodies that the checklist of those documents provided by these bodies has to be met, and it's an imperative for Marmin to beat them for them to acquire the customers. He will also share with us that while those specific regulations or compliance are met, there can be many forks and paths to meeting those checklists based on where the customers themselves operate from. Even though they might be based in Saudi Arabia, they might have operations in other countries, and hence those regulations also apply to them. Very insightful sets of discussions and journey that I'm looking forward to. Welcome to the show, Sangmesh. Welcome to the show, Sangmesh. Really a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Venky.
Today we have with us Sangmesh in another episode of the saastrana podcast, where the intent is to have leaders, tech leaders, founders of various SaaS business sharing their insights about the application security and how they are handling it. So Sangmesh, can you tell a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure, Venky. So I am founder of Marmin.ai. We founded Marmin in 2020. Initially, when we started, we were trying to build an application for exchanging documents over internet between all accounting systems and ERPs. I have been in ERP space since last 15 years. I have understood, I have gathered how these things work. Some applications are desktop-based, some applications are server-based, and some applications are cloud-based. But eventually, Marmin has this vision that going forward, all these systems will be interconnected. Not they're already connected over internet, we understand, but the data transmission between businesses, between companies, between entities will happen over internet. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are trying to build that application. Though we are mainly in space of document exchange, we saw an opportunity in 2020 where Saudi Arabia came up with a guideline of national tax authority says that all invoices generated should be an electronic invoice. Electronic invoice is not one which we send as a PDF. It has an embedded XML which goes to the tax authority. Tax authority approves or reject it, and based on that is what business will issue invoices to customer. So we immediately pivoted on it, and we built application. We are approved solution provider by Saudi tax authority, and we have good businesses with us for now.
Fantastic. So very interesting journey. So you started off with a hypothesis and a problem statement. Based on the learnings and the opportunities, you pivoted yourself to be a SaaS-based e-invoicing platform in the Saudi Arabian market. Am I right in my understanding?
Exactly. You're absolutely right. Our main business area now is electronic invoicing for businesses. Mm-hmm. And we have a parallel product also, which is used as document exchange platform also. Both are cloud-based, and this is the current state of us.
Fantastic. So a SaaS-based platform. So how would you define your target customers or your ideal customer profile in the Saudi Arabian market?
Okay. So when Saudi Arabian tax authority listed all the approved solution providers, there are around 700, 800 companies which are listed. Okay. In this, there are many are ERPs, many are accounting system, many are cloud accounting system, and many are consultants who provide advisory roles in these areas. We are differentiated ourselves. We have differentiated ourselves in a way where you have, for example, a business has their existing investment in their ERP or accounting system. They don't need to switch to a compliant solution if their main system, a main service provider of the solution is not ready for the compliance. These softwares, these companies can simply integrate with us and remain compliant. So we give a very great value proposition to these businesses, saying that you retain your existing investment, you do not lose on your capex and opex, and we when are engaged with you, you only do an opex with us. We are not a capex company. So
Mhm.
this kind of value proposition we give them.
Fantastic. So, yeah, solving a very specific and a very compelling enough problem for businesses in that market. Um, uh, Obviously, application security is not the business you are in, but application security is certainly becoming an integral part of many SaaS companies offering because from whatever I hear from other practitioners and leaders, their customers are asking about it. So, can you throw some color on the cybersecurity initiatives that you had to incorporate as part of your business? Are there any government guidelines in Saudi Arabia that triggered you to do this, or it is just your customer asking it? Just some color on how do you look at cybersecurity? What triggered you to take those initiatives for Marmin itself?
Yes. So, being in the tech space for last 15 years, we have understood that how our team has understood that how cybersecurity is very much required for each application, be it cloud or even native.
Mhm.
Anywhere it is connected to an internet, anywhere wherever it is connected to internet, there has to be some element of understanding of cybersecurity.
Mhm.
Um, we started in 2020 for our products, but
Mhm.
Saudi Arabia, being our main business area, has come up with National Cybersecurity Authority, which releases guidelines on how and what should be the cybersecurity controls for each company, each product,
Mhm.
based on
Mhm.
scenario, whichever it is. So they are laying out the basic rules.
Mhm.
So this is with perspective of Saudi Arabia being in picture, but other countries also do it. But basically, I think most of these functions are led by US and related authorities.
Mhm.
So the main agenda of this National Cybersecurity Authority is to build
Mhm.
governance mechanisms in related to cybersecurity, build
Mhm.
defense mechanisms related to cybersecurity, and to build cyber resilience.
Mhm.
As a startup, as a company which is building applications on cloud, it is
Mhm.
up to us to decide which function should we take first, governance, defense, or resilience. I think resilience
Mhm.
cannot be the one because first you have to build defense and governance, then only it happens.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
when we start building applications, there are some basic protocols which we always follow. Okay, like
Mhm.
multi-factor authentication, complex passwords. These are the
Mhm.
basic ones which are required for a cloud application.
Mhm.
Going forward with that, rolling out the application, then building on the vulnerabilities, and in parallel complying with the national regulation. This is one
Mhm.
part on what we have to do. On
Okay.
the other side, when we are into B2B space completely, when we are trying to be a supplier to some customer also are made aware enough by this National Cybersecurity Authority that these are the checklist points in the checklist that you have to fulfill if you're
Mhm.
adopting a cloud service provider or a tech service provider services.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even when we are trying to register as a supplier for such companies, they have
Mhm.
their cybersecurity checklist, which we have to fulfill. That also is an initiative for us to say, oh, this we have not done. we have to do
Mm-hmm.
this. This is the another point which we have missed out, which is mandatory and not optional by the customer. We have to
Mm-hmm.
fulfill this. So this
Mm-hmm.
way, apart from going through the National Cybersecurity Authority law and document, even if
Mm-hmm.
you go to a customer in Saudi Arabia, the customers are well aware now, aware
Mm-hmm.
enough to understand what is the minimum requirement expected from the suppliers. So this way we
Mm-hmm.
keep up, and it's a gradual process of growing and strengthening our processes internally.
Okay. Seems like National Cyber Security Authority checklist is pretty comprehensive document, right? It's and you seems like is what you're saying is any customers who get into a partnership with their supplier are well aware of this and they expect adherence to that checklist from their
Exactly.
suppliers.
Exactly. So that is one part. On the second part is how much of that is optional, how much of
Mm-hmm.
that can be mitigated, how much of
Mm-hmm.
that is you already have another control which is mitigating by some other mechanism. So these are
Mm-hmm.
all, I mean, checks and balances we have to take care going forward. It's also sometimes happens that as a supplier, we sit with customers IT team and tell them that this is not a threat. We have already covered it, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing also happens.
Fantastic. I mean, I see just the identifying this and mentioning this. It's loaded with golden nuggets of information, Sangmesh, that any other SaaS providers who wants to get into the market, right from day zero, will have to think about this checklist and weave that as part of their offering, because otherwise, the chances of success is almost non-existent, given that the consumer behavior has this as a mandate, right? So, um,
Exactly.
uh, excellent. Uh, so, can you also give me the number of application? I mean, SaaS application by design, the number of FQDNs or fully qualified domain names and the number of websites will be high. But can you give me a technology landscape of the number of applications you have? Is it just white labeled versions of your core applications that is used everywhere? Just some color on your technology landscape, number of applications that you as a business, as a SaaS business have.
Yes. So we have two qualified domains. One is app and another one is
Mm-hmm.
network. So app
Mm-hmm.
is the one where we are working on the electronic invoicing part, and network
Mm-hmm.
is where we are building on the document exchange network. So we have two products and two domains like this internally for the customers to use.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah,
so basically two applications, and each of those applications will be used by many customers
exactly.
in a multi-tenant architecture. Okay,
Exactly.
and what you are saying, tied to your previous point, is you as a supplier of this offering to the businesses, you will have to meet the must-have controls and processes in place from the National Cybersecurity Authority checklist.
Exactly. This is on the front where customers are from Saudi Arabia. There are many customers in Saudi Arabia who are operating from non-Saudi Arabia countries. I mean, other
Mm-hmm.
countries, maybe UK, US,
Mm-hmm.
Australia, and like that.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in such situation is these companies also take their local guideline into picture, okay, in which there is one particular point which has influenced us also and impacted us also. A company
Mm-hmm.
says that we need cybersecurity insurance plus error and omission insurance, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
depending upon the size of the company, size of the deal, size of the proposition what we're giving, the
Mm-hmm.
customer says I need minimum insurance of this much, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where you have to get into the market and look for such insurance providers who will insure for you, and
Mm-hmm.
they have their own checks that what are you doing internally for cybersecurity. So this is well connected in a way that you are forced to be uh, on the toes to do these cybersecurity related activities and be compliant around it.
Wow. So it's not just the product, but as part of your go-to-market strategy, even if you pick a target market being Saudi Arabia, you still have customers who have operations outside the boundaries of Saudi Arabia, like in UK, Australia, you mentioned. And because they operate from those boundaries, there are additional forks to the compliance policies that you are forced to get to acquire those
Exactly.
customers.
Exactly.
And one such use case you mentioned is insurance policies, right?
Exactly.
So you will have to get an insurance policy as part of your offering to acquire that customers. I mean, I'm just a little bit
Exactly.
surprised. I expect you to have it as opposed to wouldn't the customer already have their own cyber insurance policy?
They have their cyber insurance policy, but SaaS as a product is owned by us, right? So we
Mm-hmm.
have to ensure that we are doing those compliances. And if there is any lacuna or gap in those compliances part, they
Mm-hmm.
want to ensure that there is someone else, like an insurance company, backing us in case there is a claim of damages. Okay. So
Yeah.
when this happens, insurance company also tries to ensure that as a customer, as we being a customer of insurance company and having our own SaaS application, we are doing our internal governance and defense mechanisms strong so that there is no such claim by the customer.
Okay.
Okay.
And as part of this National Cybersecurity Authority checklist and other forks of compliance checklist, including insurance policy driven from where they operate, application security is one of the aspect of the checklist, right?
Exactly, it is like that. And one more good part, I would say that it will help you in this phase in particular is National Cybersecurity Authority also have a guideline where they say that third party testing, third party pen test, and third party should be involved in the cybersecurity mechanisms to strengthen
Mm-hmm.
the internal cybersecurity controls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. It's good for us, and it's actually this is an angle we can look at also to uh, we become the third party with these credentials to enable them to meet their compliance. But tell me, Sangmesh, is it just compliance, or are there other things from an application security standpoint that you feel is important for your business? Uh, Forget compliance and this checklist for the time being. Like, is it also an
Mm.
enabler for building trust with your customers? That
Yes. So, yes, I'm just telling you how the market is thinking on it. We are not saying that we are doing cybersecurity for this reason. No,
mm-hmm.
cybersecurity is internally embedded into our application development pipeline. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we ensure all these checks are covered, and
Mm-hmm.
third parties like Indusface help us to
Mm-hmm.
identify those vulnerabilities. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and then we
Mm-hmm.
implement them internally to make it further strong. Okay, and at a later date, then we compare with the checklist of the customer or the authority. Okay, how many of them are we fulfilling?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like which comes first? The guideline come first and then you start building, or you start building and then over the period you start complying to the guideline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there is some
Yeah.
minimum threshold which customer always look for, and we are always in place for that.
It's a combination. You have to start building independent of the guidelines, and then you are a step ahead to meet the guidelines. Sometimes guidelines and meeting the guidelines can become a side effect of the thought process and building it, and security being an important aspect that you already have in place as
Exactly,
a product.
and guideline gives you just a at what threshold you have to reach, but
Yeah,
threats and vulnerabilities are not following a guideline, so they can come
correct.
anytime. We have to be ready for that.
Yeah, awesome. Uh, so it brings me to this next question, because you said that you made it an integral part of your development cycle as part of this, and of course there is a certain minimal threshold that guidelines enforces. But independent of that, as part of your application development and SaaS offering, uh, you had made it an integral part. So, can you throw some light on what you think are some of the best practices for vulnerability scanning and penetration testing? You mentioned certainly having a third party report is one. What is the frequency with which it has to be done? Any best practices that you can think of?
Yeah.
Uh,
So What we do as vulnerability scan is we do that every week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Usually, what happens is the threats are not so frequent if your
Mm-hmm.
scans are regular and you keep acting on them. Over a
Mm-hmm.
period of time, a threat becomes critical if it has remained in the I mean for a longer time period it is known but not fixed, it becomes critical. Okay, we do
Mm-hmm.
not let anything go to that stage. Whenever
Mm-hmm.
it is identified as low or medium, we do not go beyond, we do not go delay those things to reach a
Mm-hmm.
critical stage. And whenever, even if there is a medium threat, we just fix that
Yeah.
from our side. Yeah. So this is how we do it. And internally, we have processes and policies where who will control what.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there is proper access authorization.
Mm-hmm.
Need basis access is only provided, and those are some
Mm-hmm.
internal things which we control so that no one has direct access to databases or those parts. So those are taken control of.
Um, what's your take on virtual patching? Just on this, I mean, vulnerability scanning and penetration testing helps you identify vulnerabilities,
Mm-hmm.
but you can, of course, you have to address them in your application once it is identified. But not everything in the application can be owned by you, right? Even though you build it, there are many third-party components. So, do you see a role for a virtual patching-based system also in place where there is a third-party firewall? Um, some people, different people have different views on this. What's your take on virtual patching? Is it important? Is it something that you as a SaaS business owner view it as something that has to be incorporated? And any views that you can share on it will be great.
Uh, I'm not so sure on this question because we have firewalls in place.
Mhm.
Threats are there.
Mhm.
But if you say that this virtual patching is covered by something else, I'm not sure I'm answering this.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think my question is around, let's say you identified a vulnerability on your application, and
Mm-hmm.
of course you have to fix it on your application, but
Yeah,
the time to fix can be a factor.
exactly.
And till the time to fix, if there is a virtual patching based capability that you
Mm-hmm.
provide,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that you would think is a best practice, or you say that
No,
your
it's
agile development should fix it faster than a virtual patch can?
no. In that case, we would prefer for a virtual patching also. Okay, so we do it also if there is some known patching mechanism available. We do it right away, seeing that how much trustworthy they are,
Mhm.
and eventually we'll fix it over time in our programming pipeline.
Great.
It depends on other things also. For example, there is third-party application, something is open source.
Mhm.
We keep tracking that how much vulnerable they are, whether there is a new version available or not, and based on that, we take action also.
Fantastic. I think I'm going to summarize my view on, I mean, for a new SaaS firm that is starting to build a SaaS business and wants to explore the markets you are operating in, uh, I'm going to summarize some of the pitfalls I think they can learn from you to avoid. Uh,
Good.
and I'm going to summarize some of the groundworks relating compliance and security they should do. And if you want to add to it, please feel free to do so. I
Good.
think my summary is any new SaaS firm make application security or cybersecurity as a whole an integral part of your offering so that you get a head start into building your application because uh, cybersecurity related guidelines and compliances in different markets will expect you to have a minimum threshold. And if you have that as an integral part of your thought process, you have a head start into beating those thresholds. Because without beating those thresholds, you still cannot sell. That
Exactly.
is one of the first pitfall you mentioned any new SaaS firms has to avoid. And with respect to compliance and security specific to Saudi Arabia, you mentioned that the National Cyber Security Authority checklist is probably the most authoritative document that they will have to look at because you mentioned that the consumers and the customers are well aware of this and enforce this as a minimum compliance requirement that their suppliers should provide. These are the
Exactly.
two things that I summarize. Is there anything more you want to add to it, or
Yes. Not all countries are emphasizing in the whole ecosystem to be aware of the threat of cybersecurity. Okay,
Mhm.
but Middle East and Saudi Arabia are doing really fine. In last 5 years, each company, even the smallest one, sole proprietor knows that how cybersecurity can impact their
Mhm.
business or his business. So there is a great job done by these authorities also.
Mhm.
So big kudos to them too.
Yeah, awesome. Uh, I'm pretty sure that anybody who listens to it and digest the core of what you're saying, Sangmesh, it could save them months, if not years, by learning from you and probably even reaching out to you before they look at building their own uh, applications and go to market strategy on the markets you operate in. So, really, thanks for your time. I learned a lot. Uh, Now I'm going to get into a more fun round. I mean, trying to get
Sure,
to know a little bit about the person behind the tech business and the fantastic work that you're doing. Uh,
sure,
are you
sure.
ready for
Venky.
it? You don't get time to think. You should answer. It's a rapid fire round.
Sure.
We are doing it virtually, but otherwise, generally, if we do it face to face, we'll have a hamper box or a gift box or something. But that's for some other time.
I can visit your office for that.
All right, sure. All right, ready?
Yeah, sure.
What is your favorite book and movie?
Steve Jobs, Avatar. And one more movie is there, Sentinel Man.
All right, good one. I think Steve Jobs is a legend. Enough said about him, and continues to live in our hearts forever.
And the book has everything related to product strategy, people, emotions, everything.
Good. I will. I have not read it. I will. I have not seen the movie you mentioned too, but I will add it to my checklist or to be done list.
Sure.
Uh, how do you keep yourself updated on security related and compliance related news?
Keep visiting government websites which have these national authority related updates, okay,
Mhm.
law related updates, requirements, threats, everything is marked out there, and we just see how much of that is covered by us.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah. Good. So I think related to your business, government related websites on the market you operate. Uh,
Exactly.
what is your favorite website?
Gmail.
Gmail. All right. Yeah. Not Facebook or Instagram or any of those. That's for the next
Um,
gen, I guess.
Possibly, yeah.
Prefer shopping malls or beaches?
I would prefer beaches.
Beaches. Yeah. All right. Me too. I think there's enough of shopping malls in the market you operate in.
The problem is what to buy is a question. So,
Yeah. Beaches are cheaper too.
possibly, yes.
Yeah. Remote work, in person, or hybrid?
I would recommend in person for myself because it's easy to communicate. But
Mhm.
sometimes, if situation permits, hybrid is good. Remote work is a third option.
Okay. Yeah. I prefer in person where when there is a lot of iterations and communications and teamwork in place in person, nothing to beat in person.
Exactly.
But when there is well defined boundaries of problems to solve that is going to take a long period of time, then maybe minimizing those intrusions and getting remote sometimes has.
Yes.
So I think.
It also depends on how mature your organization is. In case you're mature enough and processes and policies are well laid out, you can rely on remote and hybrid. But when you're a startup, most of things are like last rush hour effort, and you have to manage teams and get the work completed within certain deadline. In person is the most effective one.
Mhm. Yeah. And finally, it comes down to individual choices and work best for. Sometimes it works best for individuals in different ways as well. So having that flexible system also helps.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Email or text messages.
I am surprised. Why did you miss out phone calls?
Or phone calls. Yeah, I should have added. Yeah, I can make a guess of our respective generation because phone calls is what we are used to.
Exactly. So for me, phone call one, email second, text third.
Yeah. Text is to the new millennials and the Gen Zs and the later
Exactly.
generations. Yeah. Outdoors or indoors?
Work indoor, play outdoor.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's the nature of the business that we are in. We work
Exactly.
indoors. Yeah. So we need enough of outdoors outside of the work.
Yes, but I would recommend that having proportion of outdoor should be more than
Mhm.
indoor. But
Yeah,
if the situation permits, usually no.
correct. I do get outdoors. Like I try to get my business meetings in coffee shops, go out. I post. I mean, now that travel is back, I like going out and meeting customers, having those chats. Uh,
Great. I'll
and
take a hang of this now.
yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. That was fun to get to know the person behind the great business that you have built. You're doing some amazing work, Sangmesh, and thanks for sharing this insights. I'm
Thank you.
pretty sure everybody hearing this will learn a lot, or probably will reach out to you to know those in more depth. I certainly learned a lot. Thanks once again.
Thanks, Venky. Thanks for giving this opportunity. Also, it was a pleasure. Great knowing you too. Thank you.